Can you signal them?
We can hear you.
Okay, so we're live on YouTube, and I'll jump into this. And we want to welcome everyone for attending this evening's public scoping meeting for the Army Training Land Retention Environmental Impact Statement for Oahu. This is August 10th, and we appreciate everybody's patience with the process here. As you know, we had fully intended to have a live in-person scoping meeting this evening in Wahiawa Leilehua Golf Course, and due to Governor Ige's pronouncement this afternoon regarding COVID practices, we've gone to this Zoom webinar platform that most of you folks are quite familiar with now after a year or so using that. And so bear with us. We have a presentation for you this evening. Attending with me here this evening is Colonel Daniel Missagoy with the U.S. Army Garrison Hawaii, and he's going to have some remarks after I get us settled in. We also have a facilitator for the session, Tricia Keolani Watson with Honua Consulting will be our facilitator here. Everyone, we really appreciate your support in coming to this meeting, and we are here basically to listen to your comments regarding the scope of the studies that we have. We're just at the very beginning of the EIS process. So with that, I've got just a couple of ground rules for tonight that we'd like to follow. And please hold your comments to the end of the presentation, and then we will offer each of you a chance to speak for 2 minutes. We'd like you to be concise with your remarks, state your name up front, and we'll give these instructions again. There is a whole comment section. That's really what we're here for tonight. We're going to ask that you raise your hand using the function that will identify if you're interested in testifying. Then we will call you out in order. And our assistant here, Leela Yoon, is helping me along with Jeff Mers from G70, helping with the managing the comments here. Again, remain muted, and then we'll have 2 minutes for you to speak. This whole session is being recorded, and so we'll have a complete record of this as part of the EIS process. If you would like to go ahead and jump and issue your comments now, you could call our direct line, which is 808-556-8277 to record your all comments instead of waiting to speak on this Zoom webinar. And we will have all of that. It all gets transcribed into the record, and we will have complete remarks there. I don't believe there is a time limit on the phone recording. I'm not quite sure, but I think if you wanted to leave more than 2 minutes of remarks, you could do that on the phone. The phone line will be open through August 12th, midnight. And so we're today on the 10th. So we've got a couple days here for folks to leave comments and share it with your friends if they want to make remarks. We have a wide range of opportunities for you to make comments in this process. The comment period is actually an extended comment period. Typically for the Hawai'i EIS process, just 30 days. We're running 40 days for this comment period, and opened up with publication back on July 23rd, and it runs until September 1st, 2021. So this is, we again, got some notes here that are queued up from our in-person session. Of course, we're not able to hold the in-person sessions, unfortunately. But online, you found us through this website address at the home.army.mil and O'ahu EIS tag. When you do a search on Google, that's the way, or other search engines, you can find us that way. Emailing us is one way you can send us a comment. It's very efficient. usarmy.hawaii.nepa@mail.mil. Okay, and it'd be great if you want to just take a screenshot of this screen. We've got a QR code on this page that if you hold your smart device up to it, this will basically load all this information and make it easy for you to get to it. We also have a mailing address that you could use with the U.S. Postal Service, O'ahu ATLR EIS comments, P.O. Box 3444, Honolulu, Hawaii 96801-344. Now, there's an opportunity tonight to submit oral comments, and we're going to run this session again tomorrow evening, same time slot. Will be better practice, so this will be well honed by that point. Your oral comments tonight can be done through this process where through the Zoom webinar as you're called up, or you can call the phone number again, the 808-556-8277 to provide your oral comments tonight. And this is a mistake where it says open through 10th and 11th. We're actually keeping the phone line open through the 12th. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Colonel Daniel Misagoi. He is the U.S. Army Garrison Hawaii commander. And I'm going to jump out of this screen and allow our leader here to put up Colonel Misagoi.
Hey, aloha, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. So first, I want to reiterate, thank you to everybody for your patience here this evening as we rapidly transition from a in-person event to all virtual events. Not only really supporting what the state and county are doing as far as limiting COVID, but also really over the last few days getting feedback from the community with concerns of us doing in-person events. So thank you for your patience and thank you for support. I want to thank you also for taking the time to learn more about the Army's plan to prepare an environmental impact statement, or EIS, to analyze what the Army should do in the future with approximately 6,300 acres of state-owned land at 3 Oahu training sites. These training sites include Kahuku Training Area, Po'omoho Area, and Makua Military Reservation. The Army has leased the state-owned land at these 3 training areas since 1964, and those leases will expire in August 2029. The Environmental Impact Statement, which is governed by the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, and the Hawaii Environmental Policy Act, or HEPA, began with the publication of a Notice of Intent, or an NOI. The NOI was published in the Federal Register on July 23rd, and this announcing the Army's intention to prepare the EIS and kicking off a 40-day public scoping period, which runs from July 23rd through September 1st. The scoping process is an opportunity to publicly introduce the project and to receive input on the scope of what will be analyzed in the EIS. The Army is committed to being as open and transparent as possible, while also complying with NEPA and HEPA to publish an EIS that is complete and legally sound. I encourage you to learn more about the Army's proposal to retain the state-owned lands at the 3 Oahu training areas, and then submit your comments on what you believe the EIS should study and include. Regardless of how you comment, whether it's online, via mail, or through a recorded message by phone, each comment will carry the same weight, and all comments will be considered as to what the EIS should analyze to inform the Army on what lands it should pursue retaining. We look forward to your input. Mahalo.
Thank you, Colonel Misagoi. Appreciate those remarks. So before we move into the comment session, we've got a presentation that runs roughly about 15 minutes that will have a series of slides. These have been posted onto the EIS website so that if you want to review these again after the meeting or pass the link on to friends, you can do so. So at this time, we're going to run through this brief presentation, and then we'll head into the comment session that will be facilitated by Keha Watson.
Welcome to the Scoping Open House for the Army Training Land Retention at Oahu Training Area's Environmental Impact Statement, or EIS. We are glad you have joined us and look forward to receiving your comments and recommendations. This presentation briefly explains the posters outlining scoping for the Army Training Land Retention at Oʻahu Training Areas, environmental impact statement, alternatives for the proposed action at each training area location, and look forward to receiving environmental topics that would be analyzed. This presentation briefly explains the posters outlining scoping for the Army Training Land Retention.
Okay, so I don't know. There was some feedback on that, so we're going to try to restart that if it's
So
still
mute
messed up.
this conference room so she can play.
Okay.
Mute conference room.
Welcome to the Scoping Open House for the Army Training Land Retention at Oʻahu Training Areas Environmental Impact Statement, or EIS. We are glad you have joined us and look forward to receiving your comments and recommendations. This presentation briefly explains the posters outlining scoping, the EIS process, the Army's proposed action, alternatives for the proposed action at each training area location, and environmental topics that would be analyzed in the EIS. In the process of preparing an EIS, scoping is the first stage for engaging the public for their input. This stage allows the public to learn about the proposed action and an opportunity to identify concerns, provide new information, suggestions, and other comments. This scoping event was originally planned to be a fully in-person traditional open house. However, the COVID-19 pandemic has necessitated we expand our public engagement approach to ensure a safe environment for all attendees. Due to uncertainties regarding shifting COVID-19 restrictions while planning for scoping, this event was intentionally designed with the public safety in mind and to reduce potential exposure to COVID-19 while still providing ample opportunity for public participation. The EIS scoping process consists of hybrid online and in-person sessions. The in-person sessions will be 6 to 9 p.m. on August 10th and 11th, 2021. The presentation will be the same on both days, so we encourage attending only one session to allow opportunity for others to participate due to potential capacity limitations respecting social distancing protocol. Live streaming is available for online viewing and listening. Details can be found on our website at the URL provided on this poster. You may also access the website using a smartphone through the QR code on poster number 3. Presentation materials are also available on this O'ahu EIS website. It is important to note that both the in-person scoping sessions and EIS website feature the same information. This presentation, scoping materials, and additional information about the proposed action and the EIS are available on the website at the URL address provided on this poster. 2 hybrid in-person online sessions are currently planned. The in-person events include a personal greeting and introduction by the Army, followed by this video poster presentation. Options to view and/or listen to the proceedings remotely are available on the website. For those attending in person, posters discussing online contents and other presentation materials will be set around the meeting hall for viewing. Once the scoping period has concluded, the Army will review, consider, and incorporate substantive comments during the development of the draft EIS. This draft EIS will be made available for public and agency review for at least 45 days. The draft EIS public comment period is tentatively scheduled for late 2022 to early 2023. The scoping period started on July 23, 2021 and ends September 1, 2021. In addition to the poster viewing stations, these in-person scoping session events will have printed project information packets available, comment drop boxes to submit written comments, information on how to submit written comments via website, email, or U.S. Postal Service mail, and scoping comment stations for individuals to provide oral comments via phone. In-person attendees may also provide live comments from a speaker podium set up in the meeting venue. Comment station staff will be available to assist those who wish to provide comments. Attendees wishing to provide oral comments during the scoping session events may sign up to do so through the speaker sign-in sheet at the entrance. There will be no question and answer session at the speaker podium or the comment stations. Oral comments may be provided through the comment stations or by personal phone by calling area code 808-556-8277. Outside the in-person sessions, written comments will be accepted throughout the entire scoping period via the EIS website. Email to usarmy.hawaii.nepa@mail.mil and U.S. Postal Service mail to O'ahu ATLR EIS Comments, P.O. Box 3444, Honolulu, Hawaii 96801-3444 as noted on this poster. Throughout the 40-day scoping period, you can find scoping materials and information on the proposed action at the EIS website. You may access the website through the QR code on this page using a smartphone or smart device. Thank you for taking the time to participate, and we look forward to receiving your input. Questions should be directed to the U.S. Army Garrison Hawaii Public Affairs Office at area code 808-656-3158. The National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, is an environmental law that ensures sufficient environmental information for federally funded projects is available to decision makers, public officials, and members of the public before a decision is made and an action is implemented. The Hawaii Environmental Policy Act, or HEPA, is the state's EIS process that similarly establishes a system of environmental reviews to guide decision-making. The proposed action is federally funded and includes consideration of retaining up to approximately 6,300 acres of state-owned land. For these reasons, the EIS will be a joint NEPA-HEPA document with concurrent public involvement processes to comply with both laws. The joint NEPA-HEPA public involvement opportunities include the following: a 40-day public scoping period, as noted in the NEPA Notice of Intent, or NOI, the HEPA EIS Preparation Notice, or EIS-PN, and local newspaper notices. Written comments will be accepted throughout the 40-day public scoping period. An EIS scoping open house with hybrid online in-person sessions and an oral comment phone line. A HEPA Cultural Impact Assessment, or CIA, is being conducted to evaluate the potential impacts of the proposed action on cultural resources and traditional practices within a defined area. The CIA is an in-depth process and is expected to take approximately 1 year to complete. The CIA process includes a public notice, literature reviews, and consultation with practitioners, Native Hawaiian organizations, stakeholders, and other individuals. A minimum 45-day comment period and public meetings will then be planned to solicit comments on the draft EIS. That concludes the overview of the proposed action. If you have information you think is relevant to address in the EIS, we welcome you to submit a comment during the EIS scoping period. The EIS process includes 9 significant milestones for the various federal and state processes. The first milestone is preparing a draft description of the proposed action and alternatives, or DOPAA. The draft DOPAA provides background information, defines the scope of the EIS and public participation, and describes the proposed action and alternatives. It eventually becomes the first 2 chapters of the EIS. The second milestone is the publication of the NOI in the Federal Register and the EIS-PN in the state of Hawaii's the Environmental Notice, which initiates the public scoping period. The third milestone, and where we are currently, is public scoping. The purpose of the scoping period is to gather public input early in the EIS process. At the conclusion of the public scoping period, public and agency comments will be reviewed for consideration and the draft EIS will be developed. Once the draft EIS is ready for review, the fourth milestone is publishing the Notice of Availability for the draft EIS in the Federal Register, the draft EIS in the Environmental Notice, and notice in local newspapers. A copy of the draft EIS will be made available to the public and agencies for a minimum 45-day comment period. The fifth milestone is to host in-person events for the public to present and solicit comments on the draft EIS. The public meetings will be held within the DEIS comment period. Upon completion of the public scoping events and draft EIS public comment period, a final EIS will be developed. The sixth milestone is to publish a notice of availability for the final EIS in the Federal Register, the final EIS in the environmental notice, and notice in local newspapers. The final EIS is released to the public and agencies, which initiates a 30-day waiting period. The 30-day waiting period is not a comment period. The seventh milestone is the state's HEPA final EIS acceptability determination. After the 30-day waiting period has concluded, the eighth milestone is to publish the record of decision in the Federal Register. The ninth milestone is to implement the actions selected in the record of decision. These milestones illustrate the primary steps in the process through which the Army will consider the potential impacts of the proposed action and solicit and incorporate valuable public and agency comments. That concludes the discussion of the EIS process. If you have information you think is relevant to address in the EIS, we welcome you to submit a comment during the EIS scoping period. The U.S. government uses approximately 18,060 acres at Kahuku Training Area, Kawailoa Po'amohu Training Area, and Makua Military Reservation, where the Army has been for the past 6 decades. Of these lands, approximately 6,300 acres are leased from the state. The Army is proposing to retain up to approximately 6,300 acres of state-owned land on Oahu for a variety of reasons, including the following. The U.S. government's current lease of this land expires in 2029. Without action, the state-owned land would no longer be available for military training. The state-owned land is essential to military training on Oahu. It supports numerous training activities, maneuver areas, and capabilities that are essential to the Army, other military services, and local agencies. Lastly, military personnel trained to a high standard are better prepared to accomplish their mission and return home safely to their families and communities. Loss of these lands would reduce the ability of the Army, other military services, and local agencies to meet their training requirements and mission readiness. That concludes the discussion of retaining state-owned land on Oahu. If you have information you think is relevant to address in the EIS, we welcome you to submit a comment during the EIS scoping period. The Kahuku Training Area, or KTA, is located in the northern end of the Ko'olau Mountains in northeast Oahu. This area consists of approximately 9,480 acres, with 1,170 acres leased from the state. The area is used for ground maneuver and helicopter flight training, and is shown in posters 11 and 12. The Kawailoa Po'amohu Training Area, or Po'amohu, is located in central Oahu on the western slope of the Ko'olau Mountains. This area consists of approximately 4,370 acres and is entirely owned by the state. This area is used for low-altitude helicopter flight training and is shown in posters 11 and 13. The Makua Military Reservation, or MMR, is located in northwest Oahu, overlapping Makua and Kahana-Ha'iki valleys on the western flank of the Waianae mountain range. This area is used for aviation and assembly area operations training and is shown in posters 11 and 14. The proposed action includes retaining up to approximately 6,300 acres of state-owned land on Oahu in support of continued military training. One or more land retention methods could be used to retain the state-owned land. Retaining the state-owned land prior to the end of the current lease is important to prevent interruption of essential military training. After retention of the state-owned land, the Army would continue to conduct the current levels and types of military training, facility, utility, and infrastructure maintenance and repair activities. The Army would continue natural and cultural resources stewardship and mitigation on the state-owned land, and the Army would continue to permit and coordinate training and other activities on the state-owned land by other users. The proposed action does not involve new training, construction, or resource management on Oahu. Instead, it is a real estate action that would enable continued military use of the state-owned land. The purpose of the proposed action is to enable U.S. Army Hawaii to continue to conduct military training on state-owned land within KTA, Po'amohu, and MMR to meet its current and future training requirements. The need for the proposed action is to allow the military to meet current and future training and combat readiness requirements on Army-managed lands, including continuation of access between state and major parcels of U.S. government-owned or controlled land on Oahu, retain substantial Army infrastructure investments, allow for future facility and infrastructure modernization, preserve limited maneuver area, provide training in a challenging environment, and maximize use of the impact area in support of Army coordinated training. That concludes the overview of the proposed action. If you have information you think is relevant to address in the EIS, we welcome you to submit a comment during the EIS scoping period. This poster summarizes alternatives being analyzed at the 3 project locations. The 3 project sites, all training areas, are shown on the map on this poster. Alternative 1 is the full retention alternative. Under this alternative, all state-owned lands would be retained at KTA, Poʻamohu, and MMR. Alternative 1 would allow the Army to retain its substantial investment in facilities, utilities, and infrastructure on state-owned land, continue military training and other activities without downtime, and conduct future modernization of the facilities, utilities, and infrastructure within the state-owned land. Additionally, it would enable the Army to continue to have full access between state-owned lands and U.S. government-owned or controlled portions of KTA, Poʻamohu, and MMR. Alternative 2 is the modified retention alternative. Under this alternative, the Army would retain state-owned lands at KTA, Poʻamohu, and MMR. Additionally, the Army would retain all Army-owned utilities, fire breaks, fuel breaks, and fire access roads in the state-owned land not retained to enable safe operation of the U.S. government-owned land and retained state-owned lands. Alternative 2 would allow the Army to retain much of its substantial investment in facilities, utilities, and infrastructure on state-owned land, continue military training and other activities without downtime, and conduct future modernization of the facilities, utilities, and infrastructure within the retained state-owned land. Additionally, it would enable the Army to continue to have access between the U.S. government-owned or controlled portions of KTA, Poʻamohu, and MMR, as well as access to the state-owned land not retained for wildfire protection and firefighting activities. Alternative 3 is the minimum retention alternative. This alternative only applies to MMR. This alternative would enable the Army to continue to use vital training and support facilities and associated maneuver land in the state-owned land, maintain and repair Army-owned utilities and infrastructure in the state-owned land, access all U.S. government-owned lands at MMR. Under the no-action alternative, the Army would not retain any of the state-owned land. Under this alternative, the Army would have no ability to train in or access the state-owned land after the leases expire, no longer fund or manage conservation and public use programs, potential archaeological sites, fire prevention and control services, and ungulate control on state-owned lands, and have no ability to use, maintain, or repair Army-owned utilities and infrastructure in the state-owned land that serve U.S. government-owned land, which would impact wildfire prevention and firefighting activities, as well as range and emergency services communication. The no-action alternative would compromise the integrity of training lands on the island of Oahu. There are a range of both U.S. military, state, and county government agencies that have used these state-owned lands in the past for training. If these lands are not retained, the U.S. military and possibly state and county agencies would be unable to effectively train on Oahu, which would result in a lack of military and local government agency readiness. That concludes the discussion of the no-action alternative. If you have information you think is relevant to address in the EIS, we welcome you to submit a comment during the EIS scoping period. The figures on this poster illustrates the Alternative 1 and Alternative 2 retention areas for Kahuku Training Area by the hatch marked area. The figures on this poster illustrates the Alternative 1 and Alternative 2 retention areas for Kawailoa Poʻamohu Training Area by the hatch marked area. The figures on this poster illustrates the alternative 1, 2, and 3 retention areas for Makua Military Reservation by the hatch marked area. That concludes the discussion of the alternatives for the 3 training areas. If you have information you think is relevant to address in the EIS, we welcome you to submit a comment during the EIS scoping period. The final poster is an overview of the key environmental topics the EIS will analyze. This poster identifies most, but not all of the subtopics that will be addressed in the EIS. The key environmental topics include land use, which includes items such as land use compatibility, easements, and real property management. Air quality and greenhouse gases, which covers ambient air quality standards, prevention of significant deterioration, and dust. Hazardous materials, which includes hazardous materials and wastes, petroleum products, storage tanks, and unexploded ordnance. Geological and soil resources, which covers bedrock, seismology and other geological hazards, volcanology, soil properties, and erosion. Water resources, which include surface water, groundwater, floodplains, marine resources, and the Clean Water Act. Socioeconomics, which covers items such as demographics, housing, economic development, recreation, environmental justice, and protection of children. The latter 2 subtopics may become its own environmental justice section. Biological resources, which includes vegetation and wildlife, threatened and endangered species, invasive species, wetlands, and wildland fires. Noise, which covers noise zones and community and wildlife impacts. Transportation and traffic, which includes traffic, roadways, and air transportation, traffic volume, and level of congestion. Cultural resources, which covers archaeological resources, traditional religious and cultural properties, and other valued resources, traditional and customary practices, and historic buildings and structures. Utilities, which includes potable water, wastewater, stormwater, solid waste, electricity, and communications. Airspace, which covers controlled airspace, special use airspace, and military operations areas. Health and safety, which includes human health and safety danger zones. And electromagnetic spectrum, which covers radio waves to gamma waves, radio frequency, spectrum use, radar, and satellite. That concludes discussion of environmental topics to be analyzed in the EIS. If you have information you think is relevant to address in the EIS, please submit a comment during the EIS scoping period. This concludes our video presentation. This presentation, scoping materials, comment submittal information, additional information about the Army's proposed action and the EIS, and a contact for more information or accessibility requests are available on the EIS website. We appreciate your time and value your input. Please postmark or submit comments before the close of the 40-day scoping period on September 1st. Thank you.
Oh, great. No, thank you everyone for sharing that presentation with us. And we're about to enter the comment period here. So it's thank you for bearing with us. We've got a good number of attendees here, something like 75 who've logged in for this session. So that's really great. You know, up front, we want to apologize for, kind of the schedule issues that we faced here tonight because of the late breaking news from the governor and in terms of our COVID protocols. We apologize to those folks that did drive out to Lelehua Golf Course this evening, expecting to attend the live in-person scoping sessions there. Unfortunately, we had to cancel the in-person portion of it tonight. So those of you that went out there, mahalo for taking the time to do that. Hopefully you've had a chance to log in here. And again, we will run this meeting again tomorrow night at the same time and schedule. So thank you very much. At this time, I'm going to introduce Tricia Kehalani Watson. She is the principal with Honua Consulting, and she is going to help us facilitate our comment period here. Again, each of you will have a chance to speak for 2 minutes, and we'll have a reminder at about 30 seconds to go. And then we'll ask you please politely to wrap up, and we need to move on because we want to give everybody a chance to talk. You can imagine, if we took 3 or 4 minutes for 75 people, we're going to be here quite a while tonight. So your comments are very important to us, but we ask you to be concise. Please make sure you give your name at the beginning of your time, and we'll call people out based on how hands are raised in the roster of attendees, and we'll call you out. So I see some hands coming up. So Tricia, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Jeff. Aloha, everybody. Thank you so much again. Again, we apologize. It was a little bit of an unexpected day. So thank you to everyone who's been able to join us tonight. Again, as Jeff said, please raise your hand. Raise your hand function on Zoom. This is scoping comments. So comments are really one way. Unfortunately, we can't do Q&A. So the Colonel is here to accept your comments. So how this is going to work is Leela is going to call you by name in order in which you raised your hand. She will then unmute you. At that time, you're going to have 2 minutes. The other Jeff, there's actually 2 Jeffs here, will let you know at the 30-second mark, and then he'll let you know when your time is up. Again, as Jeff Overton just said, we really do want to give everybody an opportunity to comment. Again, if you're not able to stay very long, you can call the phone number. The phone number is 808-556-8277. I know we'd initially announced it was going to be open from 4 to 9 tonight and tomorrow, but we have opened it already today. It is going to stay open 24 hours a day until 11:59 on Thursday. So there's lots of extra time to call in your comments, and then written comments will be accepted through September 1st. So Leela, if you can call the first person.
The first person is Tara Rojas. Again, that's Tara Rojas. You can go ahead.
Aloha. I would like to request for 30 seconds just to say this. I know it's the first one on, the first one up, because there is no excuse. From a $1 billion entity, you had like 3-4 hours to prepare for this. It is not hard to coordinate a Zoom link in which we can all see each other, mimicking an in-person session. I already called Amy, I already called the PR, and I gave the same comments. It's not hard, and especially to unmute unlock the chat. So it's not related to my 2 minutes, and I just wanted to say that because you had enough hours to create a Zoom link to mimic the in-person, and you're saying the presentation for 75 minutes, where we are in the process, it's really important, and yet the guy who spoke seemed apologetic about what, we have 75 people. Unfortunately, we're going to be for a long time. We don't care. It's been 65 years of occupation of illegally stolen, leased land. So that I just wanted to say there is no excuse. If you are planning to, you can coordinate a response for warfare and, for everything, but there is no excuse to not have this already set up within hours to prepare for it, given the governor's mandate today. So I just wanted to say that first, there is no excuse. Okay, so my 2 minutes, I'll go ahead right now and be respectful of everybody's time. So
30 seconds remaining.
When will no, yeah, you have to allow us to say that, if you can be apologetic, we can express what we're feeling as well. So again, when will no be no? With the military, with understanding, with everything in the presentation can be summed up by the Native Hawaiians who have been for 128 years illegally occupied. The results. There has been the court case by Auntie Max and Uncle Kuching about the Army's failure to uphold their portion of the conditions of leasing the land for $1 for 65 years. You have not cleaned up. We don't need training on Hawaii, sacred, beautiful Kanaka Maoli land. You have other places to train. The Hawaiians, the Hawaiian allies have spoken, and no is no. We teach our children from small do not steal, return what is not yours. We have Title IX about harassment. Nothing is done, but yet when we try to stand for what is right and what is pono, we are immediately either, arrested or cited or ticketed. Yet there is no excuse for heavy action against Kanaka Maoli. Yet big entities like the military, the government, they can always, oops, I'm sorry, oh, let's do this. And they don't even follow, you don't even follow your own laws. It is in there. It is in books published. It is online. Everything you need to know about the negative detrimental effects of military in Hawaii against Hawaiians, the land, and everything that encompasses Aloha Ina. So the toxic pollution in the ocean, take a look at Terry Lilly's documentation about the effects on the honu, the chemicals that you guys are, dumping in the ocean.
You have about 30 seconds left. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's affecting, it's documented. We just stood at Laniakea because the state and this fake state and the leadership is not doing nothing to even protect the honu, which is extension of Kanalo, extension of Hawaiians, to do anything. The community has to take a stand always to do something, and we're always policed. We're always not excused. There is no excuse. Lease is up $1 ridiculously for 65 years. The lease is up. I recommend and I strongly am for no action. It is time for Hawaiians to live on their own land. Hawaii is Hawaii because of Hawaiians. Please find other lands. Please leave at the end of your lease. Mahalo.
Mahalo, thank you. Leela, who do we have? Okay.
Next, we have Kim Kompak.
Kim, are you with us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Aloha, Kim.
Oh, very good. My name is Kim Kompak. I'm assistant professor of history at University of Hawaii West Oahu, and I'm reading a prepared statement from Decolonial P9s. We are a Honolulu-based organization of Filipinas concerned about the protection of the Hawaiian Islands, of the Philippines, and all peoples under U.S. occupation. We stand in solidarity with Kanaka Maoli who demand an end to these leases so that a proper cleanup can begin. The training, as the military calls it, at Kahuku, Pohakuloa, Poamoho, and Makua is a disgrace. What use are live fire explosions, military helicopters, storage of missiles and other instruments of mass death? Militarism means toxic contamination for generations, desecrating the land and disrespecting indigenous people. Militarism only perpetuates poverty and misery here in the Philippines and all over the world. We want to protect these islands. The military's version of protection, however, begins with the backhanded compliment that our islands are strategically located to advance U.S. interests in the Indo-Pacific region. We do not subscribe to the U.S. military version of security and protection, which is really an agenda of endless war and corporate extraction. We want the military out of these islands so we can build a green economy based on genuine security, survival, and peace. As Filipinas, we stand with the Hawaiian people because we too have suffered under US colonial occupation. We know what it is to have no say over your lands, your economy, your destiny as a people. As the late Haunani K. Trask wrote, to the US, Hawaii like a woman is there for the taking. We say, no more of this madness. The Philippines has so
Kim,
much to
you have
teach
about-
us.
Sorry, Kim, you have about 30 seconds.
Okay.
Sorry.
We know the military expansion in Hawaii will worsen the crisis in the Philippines. That is why we say, stop stealing Hawaiian land and the military leases, stop the multi-billion-dollar sale of weapons to the Philippines, stop funding the killings, Stop your war games on all our precious islands, and stop red tagging everyone who wants a chance at a decent life for their families. We demand that our taxes go to pay for government budget line items that genuinely promote life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, education, housing, healthcare, transportation. Governments must honor the social contract to provide for the people and the ecosystem we depend on. Mahalo.
Thank you very much, Kim. I appreciate it. Leela, who's
Thank you.
next?
Also, please open up the chat for attendees, please, to hear our voice. Mahalo.
So I don't think we're doing that this evening. If you want to send in written comments, I urge you to do so via the website or the email. Please, thank you. Leela, who's next?
We have Alfred Keaka Hiona Maderos.
Alfred, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you guys see me? Hello?
Can't see you, but I can hear you.
Okay, so hello, everybody. My name is Alfred Kiakahiona Madaris. I'm from a group called The Military Ain't Shit. Simple as this. I don't care where you guys are doing environmental impact statements at. The military continues to destroy our INA, our land, and disregards our people of this land. Simple as that. You guys come here tax-free with dollar for 65-year leases. That is just ridiculous. But we have a waiting list of 37 to 42,000 Hawaiians without land. You guys totally disregard any respect for anybody in the culture, but continued destruction of our land. Look what's happened to Pohakuloa. Look at Makua. Look at everything that continues to be going on. You guys got to see that the people of Hawaii has had enough. When we say enough is enough, that means enough. 2029 should not be continued. It should not even be a number for what you guys should be removed immediately from our land. Simple and plain and simple. And I'm coming from somebody that was raised with a military family. My mom, my dad, my sister, my brother, my whole family pretty much served their time. My dad was in Vietnam. You know, my mom did serve. You know, everybody served. But it's not on a hate on the military itself. It's the people that are behind the military that continue to disregard anybody. I mean, anybody. You guys have no concern for anybody. You guys believe you guys are the elite, but you guys are not the elite. You guys are in Hawaii, a place of our people, of Kanaka Maoli. This is our INA. This is what we protect. You guys have demonstrated over and over, you guys only know how to destruct. Simple as that.
30 seconds left.
I'm gonna talk until you guys cut me off. Simple as that. You don't tell me how much time I get. Your guys' time is coming to an end. Like I said, my name is Al Madaris, and my group is called The Military Ain't Shit. Aloha.
Mahalo. I appreciate that. Thank you. Leela?
Next, we have Hank Fergerstrom.
Hank, are you on? Can you hear us?
Me. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
Okay. Shall I start?
Yes, please.
Okay. Aloha, everyone. My name is Hanalei Ferguson. I am the spokesperson for Nakapuna Moko Okeavi, which is a kupuna organization from the island of Hawaii. Because this is such a short meeting, I'm gonna have to go full on and hit you solid right where you need to be hit. First of all, you need to understand that the United States of America has absolutely no authority to assert its jurisdiction in the Hawaiian Islands. Let me say that again. The United States of America has absolutely no authority to assert its jurisdiction in the Hawaiian Kingdom. Secondly, these lands that you call state-owned lands, that the state does not own any land whatsoever. Those lands are trust lands that are Hawaiian Kingdom government and private lands. We need to get this understood really, really quick, because you folks seem to think that we can just talk about this, but nobody does anything about it. We've been saying this for years and years and years. Again, the United States has absolutely no lawful authority to assert its jurisdiction in the Hawaiian Kingdom, which is what Hawaii is. It's a kingdom. It is not a state. Now, the easiest way to get around it, to answer this, is to go look it up yourself. You'll find even in your own congressional records that the United States had no authority to be in Hawaii in the first place. There was no treaty of annexation. And a statehood act was a botched done deal anyway. It was to get out of the United Nations Decolonization Act. So what you need to know is that you are not welcomed here. You only bring problems to Hawaii. If you need to go train your troops and all that kind of stuff, you have tons of room up on the mainland. You don't need to bring it way out here. We are a nation, we are a neutral nation, and understand that well, because you as military people do understand the laws of neutrality. Hawaiian Kingdom is a neutral country under international law. And the international arena is watching what's going on here right now. They're watching that you just don't give a damn what kind of laws you're breaking, either nationally or internationally. Again, the United States has absolutely no authority to assert its jurisdiction in the Hawaiian Islands, Hawaiian Kingdom.
I'm sorry, you have about 30 seconds left. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to end up now. That's what you needed to know, the most important, that you absolutely have no authority to be in the islands whatsoever. And you need to do your research and ask your upper commanders because they know it. Okay. Anyway, thank you very much. I will be writing in a bunch more. Thank you very
Mahalo
much.
nui. I look forward to it. Leila, who's next?
Next, we have Chloe Hartwell.
Chloe, are you on? Can you hear us?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Aloha kako. My name is Chloe Hartwell and I'm a resident of Wailupe Valley. I strongly oppose the extension of all military leases in Hawaii. In the June Talk story, a question was posed asking what specific public benefits will be provided by the public trust lands if a new lease is negotiated. To echo Mr. Frankel, I am not sure how bonding the land provides benefits to the public. Land, resource, cultural site, and habitat destruction justified by a $4 million commitment to environmental work is untenable. That is 0.105% of the Army's 2020 direct annual spending in Hawaii. Colonel Misagoy stated that we would be trusting fellow American citizens in this process. There is a historical precedent of the US failing to uphold leases and complete restoration work. When the federal government took over Kaho'olawe in the 50s, it agreed to return the land in a condition of suitable habitation. I went to Kaho'olawe a couple of years after the US Navy had had nearly a decade to clear ordinances and complete environmental restoration. We stepped past unexploded bombs, which remain after 2 more decades of cleanup work. Kaho'olawe was bombed for 50 years. The impact of extended leases could take generations to heal, if ever. Though it is not legally binding, the US supported UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples establishes free, prior, and informed consent. This is embedded within the universal right to self-determination. The Colonel led with the Pacific's importance to our national security for the readiness of the joint force. You are asking dispossessed Indigenous peoples from an internationally recognized independent nation to continue to host training grounds to protect a country that stole that very land without consent or compensation per the apology resolution. Land legally designated for their benefit, $1 for 65 years. That is indefensible. Ho'i ho'i aina, ho'i ho'i ea, mahalo.
Mahalo nui. So thank you very much. Leila, I think I'll help you with the next one. It's Kanoa Ihi Maikalani Cleveland is up next.
Hi, aloha, you can hear me?
Yes, aloha.
All right, aloha no kako. My name is Kanoa Ihi Maikalani. I'm also here to request that you guys take no action and let the leases expire. Because I agree with what everyone's saying, enough is enough. And we just don't trust you. We have never wanted you here. And since you've been here, you have broken our trust and hurt our aina. And one example I'd like to give is Kaho'olawe. that Aina used to be thriving and it's not now. And Aina is very important to us because I want to quote Lanakila Mangwa when I say that it is not the same. When you say our land, we don't mean it the same way that when you say our house or our car, we mean it the same way that we say our mother. You know, so when you say get off our land, we don't mean get off our property. We mean stop forcing yourself on our kupuna because it's hurtful and she doesn't want you here. And this has never been respected by the US military. And so I believe it's time to find a new place to do this work. You know, it's about 1.9 billion acres of land, which comprises the contiguous 48 states that I feel like you could find a better location than a place which is still an independent and proud nation. It's time to hoi hoi aina and hoi hoi ea. And that's all I have to say. Mahalo.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Leela, who's the next? Go ahead.
Next, we have Emma Koa.
Aloha nui kako. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well. Thank you, Emma.
Aloha, my name is Emma Koa. I was born and raised in Waimanalo and lived in Hawaii my whole life. And I just wanted to come on and say that I definitely think that you guys should take no action and not renew any leases to any aina here in Hawaii. Not just because of, you know, we have plenty of kanaka that could be using that aina to eat, could be using that aina to live on. And it's kind of ridiculous that we're even having a conversation right now, you know, about what should the military do with this aina when it's not even their aina to decide what to do with. And it feels like I've grown up coming to all of these kinds of meetings and listening to my dad speak at stuff like this, and nobody ever, you guys don't even care. Nothing ever comes out of these meetings. Nothing ever comes out of us coming to give testimony. Nothing comes out of us protesting. I mean, it does, you know, we are united as a people, but it feels like no action on your end, on the military's end, on America's end ever happens. And it's just a lot of talk, and it feels like these meetings are fruitless sometimes, but we have to keep showing up and we have to keep coming and listening to each other speak and telling each other that, you know, like, I don't come to these meetings for you guys. I come to these meetings to tell my people, hang in there and keep doing what we do and keep giving testimony. And even though it's really tiring and even though it seems fruitless, sometimes we got to keep doing it. So definitely a huge no on the military being on any of Hawaii's land. It's always deoccupy Hawaii, demilitarize Hawaii. Yeah. I mean, I would be really surprised if anybody gave any kind of comments other than that, to be honest. So buckle up. Have a great evening. Ahuiho.
Mahalo nui. Appreciate your comment. Leela, who's next?
Next, we have Jonah Keoho Kapu.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, Jonah, we can hear you. Aloha.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jonah Keoho Kapu, a lifelong resident of this beautiful place we call Wahiwa, in the district of Kukanieloko. I'm going to address the elephant in the room again. Whew. The United States of America and the American military illegally occupy Hawaii. I'm going to say that again. The United States of America and their military illegally occupy Hawaii. There is no mechanism of conveyance. There is no treaty of annexation that can affirm the Hawaiian Kingdom ever succeeding its sovereignty to the United States of America. So that's the big elephant in the room. No decision should be made because America, the fake state of Hawaii, doesn't have kuleana to this aina. We do as a people here. We are the alohaina of this place. Okay, so that's the first thing. Secondly, 100% do not renew any lease at all. These lands are for our people. These lands are for our community. These lands are for our keiki. They've to benefit us. Right now, these lands are benefiting endless war, corruption, The military has continued to destroy, desecrate, and poison this place with no disregard to our people at all. My whole family is in the military, and I love them for that. They put their lives on the line to support your endless war. But enough is enough. This is our time to come back and malama our mama, this place. We need to take care of her because America, United States of America, and the fake state of Hawaii has never taken that kuleana to be pono. So right now, I'm just saying right now, please do not renew any lease to the American military. Mahalo.
Mahalo nui, Jonah. I appreciate your comments. Thank you very much.
We had a Nathan Yuen who had his hand up. I'm not sure if you still want to speak because your hand was lowered.
Nathan, did you want to speak?
Can you
You're
hear me
unmuted.
now?
Yeah, we can hear you,
me?
Nathan.
Okay, so I just wanted to, my name is Nate Ewan, and I'm a lifelong resident of Oahu. And I just want to say that in that presentation, the speaker made continual reference to state-owned land. And that is problematic from a number of perspectives. So I don't think that the state of Hawaii should be leasing these lands. I mean, it's not even the state of Hawaii's land. So I just want to say that there are many things that are wrong with the process. The military has not been a good steward of the land. All the toxins, the depleted uranium at Oahu on the Big Island, and also in Makua Valley, the spent uranium rounds are having serious impact on the water. So, you know, the military is supposed to be cleaning this up, but it is not. I don't think it really intends to. It just intends to use the land to advance the interests of American empire and American corporatism. There's really no benefit for the people of Hawaii. And these lands are crown lands, or part of some of them are ceded lands that are supposed to be used for the benefit of the public. So I see this process as being quite problematic. But it's actually a good thing that we're going through an EIS because we do get a chance to challenge the assumptions that are behind this process. So thank you for allowing us to comment. Mahalo.
Thank you, Nate. I appreciate your comments. Leela?
Next, we have Annie K.
Annie, are you with us?
Aloha, yes, sorry, my first name is Teresa. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you, Teresa. Can you please give your full name since we don't have the same name on your...
Yes, very good. My first name is Teresa, last name is Oʻahu.
Okay, mahalo. Please give your comment.
So there are a couple of things, and I think that needs to be clarified in this scoping Zoom. I noticed there are obviously no Hawaii government officials there. Therefore, this is not something we're addressing to any government body that says don't release the land. It looks like this is scoping specifically for Army to get feedback from the community and comments. So I'm going to address the military and the Army in that respect with regards to my comments. So there are a couple of documents that do discuss specifically the restoration that is required when the military leaves properties or conveys properties back to the leasors. And one said document comes directly from the Code of Federal Regulations, Title 32, National Defense, and the Part 644 with regards to real estate, the real estate handbook. So in there, it's very interesting. I learned a lot of things with regards to restoration and putting things back to the original. And I'm more curious to see the documents where the state entered into a contract with the military and what was required of the military once they deoccupied the land. Additionally, what would be nice to know is, you know, in other states that have training facilities, be it Alaska, Colorado, North Carolina. I noticed that in North Carolina, they have a special forces training known as Robin Sage Training, which happened this past March and April. It seems that event has been taking place over 60 years, and that is on private land in 21 counties. And it spans approximately 50,000 square miles. So my concern and what I'd like to see going forward when we get to the next phase of the EIS is, how much does the Army pay to lease private lands in other states or public lands in other states? Is there contracts that those details could be provided? I'm interested in if those states have also given $1 for the 60 years that they've had training on their 50,000 acres of land. Renewing this contract and lease could be.
Teresa, I'm sorry, you have about 30 seconds more.
Thank you.
Sorry.
If you're paying fair market value. And the way I look at it, with the cost of leasing a home in Hawaii, because the military can drop off of COLA and raise our prices, they should be paying the same rate when it comes to leasing land. But that money has to go to the community. DHHL, Hawaiian Homes, Hawaiians pay $1 every year to lease the land. We pay more money to lease the land that we thrive from than foreigners are leasing. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Thank you so much for your comment. Leela, who's next?
Angela Huntemer. Sorry, Angela Huntemer.
Angela, can you hear us?
Yes. Thank
Hey,
you.
Angela.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just also wanted to reiterate some of the comments before about the short notice. There's really no excuse, and this Zoom meeting should have been a Zoom meeting from at least 2 weeks ago. I was also very disappointed that there was no provision to hold meetings in the various communities that are directly impacted by training. I live up here on the North Shore. I got helicopters and live fire all over at night, especially. It's very disturbing. But that is a small thing in the big picture of some of the other issues that this whole question brings up. I'd like to just correct the no action alternative that was cited in the little presentation. The no action alternative doesn't mean that you can just take off and not clean up. You must leave and you must clean up and restore. Again, the track record of that is not very good, but the no action alternative is, of course, my preferred one. And it will include restoration and cleanup. I mean, that's just the polite thing to do, at least. I'm a public school teacher. So often when I'm presented with issues in the community and the world, I ask myself, what would the students say? What would a 12-year-old say to this kind of situation? Well, any child will tell you that military training has and will have enormous impact on the environment. I mean, we teach them, basic science. It's not complicated. The negative impact on the environment, on the ground, the water, the air, the endemic and endangered species that are hanging on by a thread here. It's absolutely shocking that we're even having this conversation, to be honest.
Angela, you have about 30 seconds, sorry.
Yeah. Also, KTA up here on the North Shore now has devilweed brought in by the military and subsequently spread to other places on the island. I will also say you do have some stellar biologists that work for you to mitigate some of the destruction that's wreaked on the land. And, please engage them after you leave so that they can engage in proper restoration. There are places, I hike all over the island. There's places in the back of Makua Valley that nobody can ever go to because of all the munitions, the live munitions that are there. And nobody can tend to the critically endangered plants and animals because of the danger. It's tragic. So I would like to incorporate everyone else's comments. I'm not from here, but it's been my home for 30 years. And you guys, we have something very, very special here in Hawaii. It needs to be protected. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Angela. Appreciate your comments. Leela, who's next?
Tina Grandinetti.
Tina, can you hear? Are you able to unmute?
Yes, I'm here. And
Hi,
I just
Tina.
want to be clear that I'm speaking as an individual.
Oh, Tina, you muted.
Hello.
Tina?
Hi.
Hi, sorry, you might need to start again. I apologize.
Okay, sorry. I just want to speak clear that I'm speaking as an individual, and I wanted to share that I grew up in Midlolani, where, like the last speaker said, my house would shake a lot from live fire training. And I mentioned that because I want to emphasize that those are sounds of war, and that when land in Hawaii is used for military training, it means that AINA is being used by the occupying government to train to kill other Black, Brown, and Indigenous people around the world. And that will always be my deepest objection to the military. And the impacts of that can't be measured in any EIS. And I also want to share that my mother is from Okinawa, where the US military is currently digging up the bones of my ancestors to build another military base on top of a coral reef. And I mentioned that to remind us that despite this pretend public engagement process and others like it, the US military disregards Indigenous people and their land and their ancestors everywhere it goes, from Hawaii to Oʻahu to Guam. It's frustrating because this EIS is a performance and everybody here knows it. It reinforces the idea that this is the Army's decision, when in reality, the Army is the lessee, and these lands are held in trust for Native Hawaiians and the general public. That means the people should get to decide what's being done with that land and whether it serves us. And especially means that Hawaiians should get to decide. How does using AINA for war serve trust beneficiaries? It doesn't. It just entrenches us deeper in this unhealthy dependence on the US military, which is the largest greenhouse gas emitter on this warming planet. And a complete and honest environmental impact statement would take that dependence into account. It could talk about the way that that military personnel skew our housing market and price local families out of Hawaii. Could talk about the fact that the military already controls nearly a quarter of all the land on Oʻahu. It could talk about the fact that that military spending makes it impossible to fund critical social programs like education and healthcare. And it should address the fact that Hawaiians have not only had their land stolen from them and leased to the Army, their occupier, for $1, but are then forced to provide comments to the lessee instead of the other way around. And
you have about 30 seconds, sorry.
I just want to finish by saying that even though you've had this land for 65 years, you are not and never were entitled to it. And retention should not be the starting point for this EIS. We want land back for Kanaka and a demilitarized Hawaii. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Tina. Lila?
Next, we have Jake Atienza.
Jake, can you hear us?
Yes, hi, good evening.
Hi, good
Can you hear
evening.
me?
Yes, we can hear you well. Thank you so much.
Aloha, so my name is Jake Atienza. I am based on Oʻahu. I'm an international student at UH. So I think it's safe to say, to assume that the military presence in Hawaii, that the military is critically aware that the Kanaka Maoli and allies oppose military occupation of Hawaii. The very fact that this meeting or consultation is happening right now is evidence, as you can hear from these comments tonight, that Kanaka Maoli Hawaiians and allies oppose military presence in Hawaii and also oppose the continuation of these leases, which are questionable in the first place. If you go outside, I think a while ago, they may still be there, where you are right now at the golf course, you would have seen that there is a group from Waianae protesting right outside the golf course. Both in the islands of Hawaii and internationally, US military presence has been detrimental and continues to damage communities, cultures, indigenous people, and local forms of governance. It has also resulted in displacement both locally in the US occupied Hawaii and internationally. So to reiterate this point, I want to cite the following from the Watson Institute for International and Public Affairs at Brown University. Quote, "Millions of people living in the war zones have also been displaced by war. The US post-9/11 wars have forcibly displaced at least 37 million people. I repeat, 37 million people in and from Afghanistan, Iraq, Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia, the Philippines, Libya, and Syria. This number exceeds the total displaced by every war since 1900, except World War II, end quote. So I say this to conclude, in addition to the previous comments tonight, the first priority is to return sovereignty to Kanaka Maoli, as it should be, and as it should have always been. The second is to stop the US military war machine that is has a presence worldwide. Mahalo.
Mahalo, thank you very much. Leela, who's the next speaker?
Charla Naone.
Charla, are you on?
Aloha, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, aloha mai kako. O Charla Leali Inaone ko Uinoa. I am from Nanakuli, Oʻahu. I'm a native Hawaiian daughter and mother. I spent many days of my childhood and my life pretty much on the sands just fronting Makua, and I always dreamt of a day when our valley could be free. I strongly oppose the continuation of the lease of Hawaiian lands by the U.S. military. You see, in our culture, we place extreme value in our families and our aina. They are one and the same. I understand that this hearing is in regards to an EIS, but we all know the truth that your plan is to just, throw some papers together and move on with it and continue bombing of our lands. But I just want to make it clear that you have many of us that are in strong opposition to the extension of really any of these leases. The U.S. has shown time and time again that they do not take care of not just Hawaii, but any land that they're on, whether it's Okinawa, Philippines. I mean, look at the Middle East. We're withdrawing from the Middle East, and their land and their people, the land and the people are always damaged. And furthermore, the military on Oahu and in Hawaii has taken the most beautiful parts of us. And it's just the damaging. We can't take it anymore. It's not just the land and the people. It's our culture and it's who we are. It's time for the military to move on. It's time for our aina to return to us. Yes, it'll take decades. Even if you clean it, it's still going to take decades for this land to heal. But enough is enough. Mahalo.
Mahalo nui. Thank you. Leela?
La'akea Lo.
La'akea? La'akea, you're muted. Can you unmute? Aloha, can you hear?
Kako,
Aloha kako.
hello koina, no kamokopuni o Maui, wow. Just a couple suggestions. First off, like everyone said, open the chat. Put a list of the testifiers in order so that we know when we testifying. We had things for do. And also maybe put the wahine with the clock back on the screen so that we're not interrupted when we testifying, so we know how much time we get. So with those suggestions in mind, I'll just like to oppose any renewals of any permits by the U.S. military. As people said, the U.S. military has no jurisdiction in Hawaii. When you folks provide the Treaty of Annexation, we might be able to talk about it. But without that treaty, there's really no place for the U.S. in Hawaii. And then as a previous testifier said, in terms of the no action option, for the U.S. to threaten Hawaii with, well, if you don't renew our permits, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that. We're not going to protect, we're not going to do work related to the environment. That's really, really childish of the U.S. I mean, you guys been getting a deal dollar for 65 years. And unless we adhere to your folks' requests, you folks can just, ship out. And if that's what it is, then as long as you guys ship out, then that's good too. Take all of the military personnel with you guys. They just, disrespecting our aina, raising the cost of living in Hawaii, and all of the military, they claim to fight for freedom and this and that, but they fail to recognize the freedom of Hawaii. And a lot of that is a sham. We all know a lot of the service members are serving because of the benefits, because of the pay, and to say they're fighting for our freedom is a sham. They're fighting for free college and to survive, for the housing benefits and the education benefits and the paycheck. And so the sooner the US leaves, the better for everyone involved. And we've seen what's happened on Mauna Kea and elsewhere throughout the islands, Maui, Haleakala, where Kanaka are mobilizing.
Kalamai, sorry, you only have about 30 seconds. Sorry, I don't.
That's what I mean. Like, you guys gotta do something about that. Like, try to find a way for not interrupt the testifiers. I mean, you guys already took up choke time with that presentation that we could all find online without having to go through all that and waiting all night to testify. And so I'll just say, the sooner the US leaves Hawaii, the better. We all know Hawaii is illegally occupied. The so-called state of Hawaii, the fake state, has no jurisdiction. Neither does the US military, the United States of America. And so just leave as soon as possible. And the sooner the better.
Mahalo. I apologize for having to interrupt you again. I'm sorry about that.
Trisha, if you have a piece of paper, can you just put 30?
We're not sure if everyone would see that, but we'll definitely look into something for tomorrow night. I apologize again. Lila, who's the next speaker?
We have Thomas T. Shirai Jr.
Thomas, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You're a little muffled, but we can hear.
Hi, Trisha.
Hi, how are you?
Okay. Hi, Colonel. Aloha. Aloha. Yeah, I just came back from the golf course and
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
But well, anyway, I'm here to testify. I have mixed feelings. I served in the Coast Guard, but I also have other feelings culturally and stuff of that sort. And I know Colonel because we have the Kauai Hapai airfield meetings of currently the lease extension by DOT and stuff of that sort. So I know him already, and he knows me. So, but if there's one point I need to do is I need to share just some basic things. Number one, I think one of the biggest things that everybody, especially the Hawaiian community, is upset is the lease of $1 for 65 years. And that's not only just the Army, it's the telescope of Mauna Kea and other things of that sort. That's one of the biggest things that everybody is angry about. You know, and for Colonel, I'm going to share with you, although we're talking about the Makua, KTA, and Kauai law, I'm going to tell you some things that some don't know. Okay. My ohana is from an ahupua'a called Kauai Hapai. That's where the Dillingham Airfield is situated. And in 1940, through executive order, my ohana and others that were there had to leave. They had to start all over from scratch. And I will also say this, they did for each parcel give some kind of compensation, but it was a take it or leave it. But when World War II was supposed to be over, landowners, not only at Kauai Hapai, but all over like Pohakuloa that had Native Hawaiians residing there and they lived on the land and they own them, was supposed to be given back. But at that time, they were very racially prejudiced. Only Caucasian peoples, excuse my language, but Haole people, like the Morgan family, got their land back, and the Hawaiian owners of such, it was turned over to what became territory of Hawaii lands. From there, it became state lands. That's one of another things that a lot of us that have deep ties in specific areas are very, very angry about. And our kupunas didn't want to go through that heartbreak, so they kept it quiet for us. And we had to learn and revive them when the time was past. Okay. Now,
I'm so sorry. I can only give you a little bit more time, only about 30 more seconds if you can, please. I'm so sorry.
but I will tell you how you got Fort DeRussy and La Pietra. It's because of Dillingham. He made a land swap using lands from Kauai law and Pupukea to get Fort DeRussy with the army. And because he gave a small parcel on Dillingham Airfield, now called Kawaihapai Airfield, because his son went to war and he wanted, that was the disclaimer, renamed the airfield from Mokulia Field to Dillingham Field. But many of us served that did almost the same thing, like myself. So that's my thing I had to share with you. Thank you, Tricia. Thank you, Colonel. And to the people, to the Ohana and friends at Liliwa Golf Course from Waianae, I send my aloha to them. Good night.
Good night. Thank you. Mila.
Susan Rosier.
Susan, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
I had to put on my glasses to read the little tag, sorry.
That's okay. I needed my screen reading glasses as well tonight, so
I know, I
understand
see
completely.
that. I see that. So my name is Susan Rosier. I'm currently, for the last 12 years, living on Mokuokiawe, the island of Hawaii. Before that, I lived on Maui and raised my children over there. And I'm very, very familiar with the military because Ko'olawe bombing was a part of my family experience, with the ground shaking and the skies lit up and the bombs rocking the place. It's and the military didn't clean that up. And where I live here, up Puakuloa, they're not cleaning that up either. And in your presentation, it was talked about how you take care of cultural sites and things like that. And all of that on paper sounds really, really good. You know, it's going to look impressive. But the reality of it is that it doesn't happen. On Ko'olawe, they put big circles around all of the heiau, and those were the targets. They made the circles so that nations from around the world could come and bomb the islands. This is a land of aloha. I find it extremely, extremely offensive that the military is naming things that go around the world and kill people and maim people Hawaiian names. Stop that. Stop it. I'm sure, Colonel, you would be able to relay that message up above, because that's like heart-wrenching. Obviously, the military doesn't understand what aloha really is. So you were told tonight that this is not really a state of the United States. And we all know that by fact now, because documented original source documents have been shown to us. And we are all now very educated in knowing that you're here illegally and have been. And when the military originally had all of those executive orders, there was a military crisis. There's not a military crisis today. There hasn't been a war since when? Korean War was the last declared war, because after that, the military doesn't declare wars. When somebody's sent off, like my son-in-law, God rest his soul, who went to war in the Gulf War They called it a war. They said it's a Gulf War. And he passed away. And his son couldn't even get the $10,000 that was promised for an education. His kids weren't even school age when he passed away.
Susan, I'm so sorry. You have about 30 seconds left. So sorry.
So in my last 30 seconds, I would say, you know, your best, you're not going to do it because you're only going to check the box. Yes, we had the people talk. Check. That's what happens. But this problem is not going to go away. It's not going to go away. And everybody needs to get on the same page and talk about it. You really shouldn't renew the leases. That is private land that was taken away by the insurgents who Cleveland said were not legally in charge of the country. Therefore, their Republic of Hawaii had no right to sign over anything to you folks. And you folks had no right to take it. And the statehood vote, we know that's a fraud too, including the ballot. So take number 4, no action. I know you're not going to, but that's what everybody wants. And thank you very much.
Thank
And
you
for your
very
patience.
much. I appreciate it. I'm
I'm
so
up-
sorry.
If I sound upset, I don't want to be taking it out on you folks, but I really like you folks to carry that message back, please.
Thank you so much again for your comments. Leela, who do we have next?
Rox, R-O-X.
Hello.
Aloha Rocks.
Aloha. My name is Preston Ornelas.
Hi, Preston. Go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay, let me just thank you guys for taking the time out of your lives to do this. Give us a platform to let you know how we truly feel. My name is Preston Kamaihu Ornelas from the island of Kauai, born and raised in Wailua. My grandfather was a veteran, buried at Punch Bowl Cemetery. My dad was a Marine, fought in Vietnam. I was raised by a military man. I don't agree with renewing the leases, first of all. And I'm pretty sure you guys got the message clear. I just want to talk briefly on the history. And, you know, this is the Kingdom of Hawaii. That's a true fact. Another fact is you guys have a nasty track record of not caring about the environment. Another historical fact is you are illegally occupying us right now. Another historical fact is the people of these islands don't trust the military. There is no such word when it comes to the relationship between the Kanaka Maoli and the US military. So that word is really touchy. You should think twice about using that word, and you should really deeply think about the meaning of that word and the history of that word in this whole islands. Another thing I want to point out about history is the threatened plants, the animals, all the species here in Hawaii that is super threatened. And you guys, the history of the US military, you guys never show no aloha, no love to that. And then the Kanaka voice is another point I want to make. They're in total opposition of the presence of the US military in the big state of Hawaii. The land of the free, the home of the brave. This is the land of the free and the home of the brave. And you guys need to really open up your eyes and wake up, because the future, unlike me, how I was raised with lies in an American history class, these young youth coming out of Hawaii today, they're being raised with the truth, so that they know right out of the gate. You guys are illegal occupying Hawaii. Thank you for your time. I wish you guys all the best. And Colonel, please open your mind to everybody's not only the words but the heart that they come in with. Thank you very much. Aloha.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Mahalo. Lila?
Next, we have Linnell Damate.
Linnell, can you hear us? I don't see her name up here.
It's at the bottom,
No, I don't see her on the bottom. Linnell, can you? Leila, I'm not seeing her.
Yeah, I think she has an older version. I'm trying something to let her.
Oh, Linnell, I can see you. Can you unmute? I can see you. Okay, we're getting closer.
Okay, I unmuted. Yes, my name is Linnell Damate. I was born and raised out here on the North Shore. I live in the Kaunala Ahupua'a, which is adjacent to the Waile'i Ahupua'a, which is more popularly known as Velziland. And I don't know who that dude is. It's actually Kaunala Bay is the name of that surf spot. But first of all, I wanted to thank all the previous speakers. They're doing an excellent job. And I do also agree with all of the speaker to take no action. So having said that, I'm going to switch gears a little bit, so bear with me. I'd like to make reference to your environmental topics to be analyzed. I want to give you an example of a lie, an ongoing current lie regarding the noise. In that study, please be mindful that we've been told time and time again by the military, right up here at KTA 1, that, oh no, the helicopters, we're done at 10 o'clock. That is an outright lie. They start at 10 o'clock and they go past their training time all the way past 11:30. I know because I stay up and I watch that clock. So, although they say it ends at 10, it starts after 10. And secondly, in this EIS process, you seek consultation, right? Well, what you need to really be looking for is consent. And you have no consent from the people of Hawaii. No consent to renew the lease. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comment. Leela?
We have US troops out now, exclamation point. Give me a second. I need to unmute them. Go ahead.
Aloha. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're a little echoed, but maybe try again.
Hello? Is this better?
Yes, that's good.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. My name is Victor Gregory Limon, a Filipino graduate student at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. I was born and raised in the Philippines, where the U.S. military has a long but consistent track record. That record is a history of violence, death, destruction, and the rape of our women. If the U.S. military is allowed to continue occupying and desecrating Hawaiian lands, I cannot imagine how the future of my native Hawaiian brothers and sisters would be different from what my people has suffered so far. I applaud everyone tonight who had the courage to stand up for their sovereign rights and for what is right. In 1992, the U.S. military was forced to withdraw from its bases in the Philippines. That was a result of a united and vigorous opposition of Filipinos and our allies around the world. I have no doubt that it is only a matter of time before that feat is repeated here in Hawaii. That will be a time for reckoning, and it will bring hope to other peoples whose lands are whose lands are also illegally occupied. Mahalo.
I'm sorry, can you say your name one more time? I think we just wanted to get it for the record.
My name is Victor Gregor Limon.
Thank
I'm a graduate student at UH Manoa.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And thank you so much for your comment.
Mhm.
There are no more hands up, but I see a number of you, and I know many of you, and I know many of you are perhaps, okay, there we go. So Lila, do you want to run through? I think TJ's up next. So we'll go through people who have not spoken yet, and then if we have time, we'll give people who have spoken before another 2 minutes. So I think TJ was up. TJ, can you hear me? TJ, are you able to unmute?
I did. Am I unmuted?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah,
Please go ahead, TJ.
Great. Would be good if you guys could give us video access too, because you can't just hear our words. You need to see our faces. You need to understand where we're coming from. And I think most of you know.
TJ, you cut out.
And I will tell you again, the Army
TJ, I'm sorry,
needs to
you
get
cut
out quickly. I'm sorry.
TJ, you're breaking up. Can you go back about 30 seconds? You dropped out for about 20 seconds there.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you cut out there.
No, it's okay. So I'd like 4 minutes and 2 seconds, just like Thomas Shirai did, yeah? So, no, it's okay, because I'm timing everybody and he was given the longest. Now, the reason that I'm here tonight, I'm giving up the first night of my grandson's kindergarten dinner celebration to talk to you about the Army. They need to get out. They need to get out now, not wait till 2029. They need to just get out. I was given the opportunity to go up to Hale'au'au a few weeks ago. And at that time, I took my mom, who is almost 80, with me. My mom's kupuna come from that area. And I'm going to reiterate what every speaker before me has said. The Army has not taken care of the land that was stolen from us and that was taken from us. There were iwi that have been destroyed, that have been separated up in that area. And that is just one example of why the Army needs to just get out. Don't wait for 2029. You need to just get out. You cannot keep doing this. Colonel Misagoy, let's go back to where you live. And I've talked to Kehal about this before. Let's go to where your kupuna are, where your ancestors' bones lay. And then let's go and trample on their graves. Let's go and trample on their bones and then see how your family likes it. Let's go and destroy the land that your ancestors have fought for and shed blood for. Maybe not like the Hawaiians, where we have lived here for thousands of years. And maybe you will feel just 1% of how we feel every time we see the military running around, not just on the lands, but running around through Wahewa town, running around through Whitmore, running around through Kahuku, leaving trash, hurting things along the way. So the best thing for the Army to do is to just get out. We don't want you here. We never wanted you here. You're not welcome. And if there's another language that it needs to be spoken in, let me know and I will find somebody to translate it and we will speak it in that language also. But the military was never welcomed here. You are not wanted here. Just get out. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, TJ. I think we have Kalikoa next, so I'm gonna brace myself. Okay, Kalikoa, can you hear? Lila, have you let Kalikoa in? I think he was next.
Sorry, I had someone else next. Work Boots Runner.
Oh, okay, sorry. Work Boots and then Kalikoa, then Uncle Tom Lanchenko.
I'm not sure if they unraised their hand.
Well, let's go on to Kalekoa then, and then if somebody or work boots run
Okay,
out.
they're unmuted if you want to speak.
Okay, and then Kalekoa will be after that. Hello? Work boots? You're still muted. Work boots, if you're still interested in providing a comment, you need to unmute yourself.
Should we just move on?
Yeah, let's move on to Kalekoa.
Okay.
Kalekoa, can you hear?
Aloha, aloha aina
Aloha.
o i'o, Velina. Aloha nui kako, a uau nei o Kalekoa ka eo, he ke papa noka moko puni o Maui. No leila, just to be real quick, and has been said over and over again, let's be clear. We are, as a people, our Lahui Kanaka, are totally 100% against any more destruction, poisoning, and the death and the poisoning of our aina, our lands. As we all know, the United States is a foreign, belligerent, military. They have a presence that's illegal in our islands and unlawful since 1893. Our people have never given consent to not one soldier being in our land, to one valley being poisoned, to any of our waters being diverted and wasted upon any of the military installations. We are under an illegal occupation by this foreign power who has proven over and over again. This is not an accusation, this is proven by fact. Over and over again, which has, so when you look at the so-called lands that have been leased and they propose to lease, all we got to look at the record of the so-called leasees and you can see they have never been good tenants at all. And so when we talk about what they might do, let's look at what they have done. And before you talk about expanding, go and clean up your mess in the first of all. And secondly, just to kind of be real quick, just to remind of you that you have a long history, the US military presence in the Pacific of poisoning, of death, of destruction of native peoples, whether we're talking about our brothers and sisters in Micronesia, or you're talking about the 7th Fleet from the Philippines up into Okinawa. The Pacific peoples have always resisted the US empire, who have forced themselves as part of the mentality of dominance of the people of the Pacific. And let me just say directly to Colonel and the rest of the US military, you have no honor. You have no honor. You are not people of freedom. You are people on the home of supremacists for far too long have been a fakery and sham. Land for the land of the free, no, land for free. That's what you always have expected. And so we will never accept your presence in these islands. We'll never accept what you plan to do. And so my hope is that you will all pack up as soon as possible and leave these islands forever and not to return. So you don't come here as peacemakers, but as foreign unwanted invaders. And if you had honor, if you really had honor, you would see us as human beings, as I can see you as a human being. But I don't know if you're really human, if you consider yourselves human beings, when you bring death and destruction and dehumanization to peoples around the world. And so I would ask that you take back this message to your big boss back in Washington, D.C. and tell them that we don't want you here. We never wanted you here. And we expect at some time in the future that you will leave our islands. So with that, ku'e mau a mau. Mahalo nui.
Mahalo nui. Thank you so much, Kalekoa.
We had Tom Lanchanko, but he put his hand back down.
But he's put it back up now. So I see Tom's hand back up. Uncle Tom?
Oh, can you hear me?
Aloha, I can hear you.
Thank you for tonight. I just wanted to give one rendition. Aha ula puhonu kukani loko. Na aumakua kapoi. O kapo. Na aumakua o ke au. Kilipu ina kupuna ma ho o heva maule au honu malama o paoe. E kuka ave ina kapo o kukani loko no kamea aloha. No hoi kako i ala ko i na kao au kao. Hili i. Ua mau i ka pono wahewa. O hau nui ala i lai. Ka anane au. O ali i ko pao. Of critical note, since time immemorial, time eternal. Kilipui na kupuna ma. We embrace those we choose to follow. Wahimana Pilipono, places of exact and concise supernatural energy. Hawaiian traditional cultural property remains for all time, despite the unauthorized removal of its guardian, physical features and structures. We were required to be within their realm to acknowledge and verify their unseen and seen perpetual existence. Mahalo Colonel, Mr. Goya, Trisha, and all that participated tonight. God bless you all. Mahalo nui, malama.
Mahalo nui. I appreciate very much your comment.
I
As
have
always,
Chris
Uncle.
Hochuli.
Aloha, everybody. My name is actually Hili Na'i Hokli. I'm 19 years old. I'm from the island of Kauai. And I'm just going to be brief. I just wanted to start out by talking about that, you know, even though Hawaii, we are not a part of the US, but we make up 1% of their total landmass, yet we are responsible for 44% of their endangered plant species. And as Indigenous people, we are responsible for 80% of the global biodiversity. So when you talk about the environment and what you have done, it's a joke. And, you know, the future is Kanaka Oiwi, and we will not be silenced. And although I don't know how seriously you will take this meeting and our voices and what we have said, but the land is our life, and we will fight forever until it is restored to us. Mahalo.
Mahalo nui, Hili Na'i.
Leilani Portillo.
Aloha mai kako. This is Punahele Kikipi. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Punahele.
If the Aina's on the line, then I would never run. If we gotta bring the flames of Maui pulling down the sun, they disrespect my culture and they claim to be pono, then stop the development. Defendo Hiki Lolo. You know how we roll, we kill oppressors on the track and go tell the military that we want Makua back. Protect Mauna Kea, protect Pohakuloa. They tried to silence us, but my people taking over. More knowledge, more wisdom, all these young Hawaiians driven. Because our ancestors signed a coup a petition. East side, west side, and this side and every side. It doesn't matter anyway, because we got that Hawaiian pride, love for my people, not a heart filled with hatred. But how can them non-Hawaiians say our sacred sites ain't sacred? I'm the dark side killer. Shake your uli uli. Hawaiian patriots here for make the system hully. So right now, I like to say I am opposed to all lease extensions. Take no action. Give the land back. Clean up your mess. You guys have no jurisdiction. There is no treaty of annexation. And stop the bombing. Demilitarize Oceania. Pack your guys' stuff and go. We don't want you guys here. My name is Punahele. I'm from Makaha, Hawaii on the west side. I grew up seeing the effects of your guys' training on top of the Aina and all my people. I've seen multiple valleys on the Waianae coast be burned down because of what you guys did. I've had family kicked off of our ancestral homeland at Makua for you guys to destroy our land. And we're sick of it. And clean up your guys' mess. Nothing you guys can just skate away without, you know, taking care of your action. Hawaii is a place of aloha. And after all the aloha that we have constantly shown you guys, the least you guys can do is clean up. And I hope you guys clean up. I hope you guys fix this Aina. I hope you guys make this place pono. But you guys gotta work with us and listen to us and not just use this as a performative platform. Let's make change, do the right thing, stop the lease extensions, take no action, clean up your mess. Mahalo nui.
Mahalo nui. Thank you so much.
Next, we have Kumu Koolani.
Aloha mai kako, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very clearly. Thank you so much.
All right. My name is Koalani Lagareta no Ka'aina Uluwehi o Manoa. And I wanted to just first mahalo everybody for being here. And so many of you are far more eloquent than I am. And I just appreciate everybody's mana'o and time. So I wanted to just start off by paraphrasing a Hawaiian hero of mine, George Helm. You know, there is Kanaka and there is Aina, and one does not supersede the other. The breath of Kanaka is the breath of Aina. Kanaka is the caretaker of the Aina, which maintains our life and nourishes our soul. And therefore, Aina is sacred. I strongly oppose the renewal of any and all military lease land in the Hawaiian Kingdom. There has been an indefensible history of misuse and mistreatment of Hawaiian land and people by the US government military, first and foremost, the illegal occupation of our sovereign island nation and imprisonment of our queen. For the people of Hawaii, the land is more than a commodity or a resource. It's an extension of our ohana, of ourselves. The winds, the rains, the plants, the creatures are all living members of our community with names and personalities and stories of their own. When you shoot up our Aina, you shoot up our family. When you bomb our Aina, you bomb our family. When you pollute and poison our Aina, you poison our family. The time is long overdue for the US military to clean up their messes and leave. We don't want you playing war games here anymore. We don't need you here protecting us. We need protection from you. We want our land back. Land back. Land back. Mahalo and aloha aina.
Mahalo, thanks, Koa. Koa, was that your son earlier that spoke?
Aye.
He looks like you. He did very well. Thank you so much. I was wondering. Okay, I think we have a couple more people.
Darlene R.
Aloha, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Darlene.
Hi, my name is Darlene Rodriguez, and I live here in Mililani. And I say no more leases to the U.S. military in Hawaii and elsewhere, such as Guam, Okinawa, and Jeju, just to name a few. I come speaking as a Gold Star family member. My cousin was killed in action in Iraq, serving in the U.S. Army. She graduated from Lelehua, so I speak with an understanding of what the Army does, and also some aloha for people in the Army, because I have many family members who serve. But I grew up in Wahiawa in Mililani, and I live here in Mililani now. And I realized growing up that before the Army was just a neighbor that lived behind a fence. You know, there was access to things like honeycomb crunch on the military base at the commissary, something that we saw commercials for, but we had a yearning for, but couldn't get access to. We didn't have a pass to go on base. So I grew up thinking that the military had something that I coveted, and the Army would give us a way out of our plantation existence. And many of my family joined the military. But in high school, I learned about koholave, and I found out about the desecration of the island by treating it as a target practice. And then I learned about the US military and how it was tied to an illegal overthrow. And suddenly the neighbor behind the fence became an uninvited guest. And then now, as an adult living in my home in Mililani, and hearing the bombing practice at night, or driving past the convoys on the freeway, and seeing that the convoys that used to be green are now the color of sand. And I learned about the large areas of land controlled and used by the US military, such as Makua and Lualua Valley. And then I realized that Ko'olave was not just an island far away, but tied to the land and the place that I live now. And the uninvited guest behind a fence is an invader which has taken up land and the people that I love. No more US military bases anywhere in leases for this reason, not just for the million of other reasons that were just given, rightly so, by Kanaka Maoli and what has happened to their kingdom and their people. We need to stop doing this to our own people and to other people and elsewhere. No one deserves this. And I really hope that you work yourself out of a job, Colonel. I really do, because this planet doesn't need it. And we need more people to get us out of just what's going on in terms of climate, what's going on in the climate. So there's no ill will other than that, knowing there are bigger things that we must work at, and finding out today that we might be in a place where we can't get out of. We need to put our resources there and not in taking more from other places to target practice or any of those things. So thank you, Daghan Salamat. No to these leases. Not for $1, not for $5 trillion million. No, the answer is no. Thank you.
Mahalo nui, darling. Thank you so much. I don't see anyone who hasn't spoken, and I do want to make sure that everybody who has not spoken does have a chance. Otherwise, we are going to go back to people who have given comment before. Tara, I'm sorry, I don't know which it is. Did you want to go first? And then I could give you a few more minutes.
Aloha. Yeah,
Aloha.
Aloha, this is Tara Rojas. And I just want to say actually a direct comment to Colonel Misigoy. What will it take for you to take this up to your higher ups and just to say, stop, the people have spoken. We don't need an EIS. Let's work from now, 2021, and let's work on an 8-year plan to clean up this AINA and leave promptly in 2029, if not before. But literally, what will it take for you to stop this? Hear the residents, the Kanaka Maoli, to hear the people. I believe that it is not just a show. I believe that this is what you are looking for. To hear us and to take action upon it. So if the plan is not to do a cleanup from now, to leave for 8 years, to leave in 2029, then know, that I as well, we are willing. Are you willing to go against the people and everything you just presented to us and everything you just said and all the years you've been here, to go against those who are willing to stand up after having said it formally, that you have no consent, you're here illegally, and to please clean up and leave. Because that is where we are at now in 2021 Awoken. And I just want to end with this, that, we learned from the Mauna. E iho ana o luna, e pi'i ana o lalo, e hui ana na moku, e ku ana ka paia. Mahalo.
Mahalo, thank you so much. We have Nolan who hasn't spoken yet. So it'll be Nolan and then Hanale again. So Nolan, are you on?
It's Johnny May Perry.
Oh, sorry, Johnny May?
Okay. No worries. So in today's paper, Secretary of Army supports training ground lease renewal. That's Christine Womath. I know you have orders, and this is your orders. I would say no action, but to restore Ma'akua. And the bottom line is Hawaii economy is not against the people, but it's Hawaii economy. Now, if war is very ugly. Nobody likes war. We prefer peace. But with war come destruction. And there's other ways, and with today's technology, you just push the button and the whole world can be blown up. But it's about Hawaii's economy. It's our legislature in Washington, D.C. that have a hand in this. But I was looking forward to 2029, but unfortunately, House Bill 499 came around and it changed things. And how convenient that the governor put on a proclamation today, which no in-person hearing is taking place. How convenient that came about. I have nothing against the military. It boosts our economy. There's plus and minuses, and you just doing your duty like you are expected to do. If not, we could be invaded by Russia, China, and of course there's other places to train. But it goes back to Washington, D.C. and Pentagon. So I would ask, no action, but restoration. Mahalo.
Mahalo nui. Thank you very much for the comment. I think we have one last, but certainly by no stretch of the imagination least. Hanale, I think you're going to close us out tonight. So can you please unmute yourself?
Am I the Hanale you're speaking of?
Yes, there is no other.
Yes.
There's only one.
Thank you. Anyway, I would like to just add on to what I had said before about the military having no lawful authority, not under their constitution or under international laws, has any legal authority to assert their jurisdiction in the Hawaiian Kingdom. I would also like to clarify some stuff. We're talking about the renewal of state-owned lands, but you're also not talking about the lands that you're claiming that is owned by the United States, that was done through executive order, like through Lyndon B. Johnson. Okay. Before any of those kind of things can take place and have any lawful effect, you have to have a treaty of annexation. You do not have a treaty of annexation for the Hawaiian Kingdom. There is no transfer at all. So you are here illegally. And so all your executive orders from your president all the way down to our governor are all illegal anyway.
They called you to speak.
Anyway, that's what I wanted to add on now. I got a bunch more coming up, but you need to, you got to do it. You got to do this correctly. You can't just hear the words and let it go idly by. These words are very well chosen. They are made, they're condensed in such a way where you can put it in sentences and take it back to your higher ups. Your congressional record shows all about how you're illegal in Hawaii. Your congressional records. Again, you have no treaty of annexation. Without a treaty of annexation, you have absolutely no lawful authority to be in the Hawaiian Kingdom. You don't have that authorization from your own constitution, the United States Constitution, or under international laws. Thank you very much.
Mahalo nui, Hanale, as always. I see, so Johnny May, did Nolan come back? I thought I heard you for a second there. So, if Nolan is back and want to speak, please just raise your hand again. Otherwise, we'll go to Daniel Anthony, and then I see Kanoa Ihimai Kalani has his hand up again, and then he'll be last. Okay, so we'll have Daniel, and then we'll let Nolan go because Nolan hasn't spoken yet. So Daniel. Daniel? Daniel, we can't hear you if you're trying to speak.
Guys, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
I'm so sorry. I'm having some technical problems.
It sounds like that's okay. We can hear you
Okay.
now.
Okay, perfect. Okay, aloha mai kako, ovo Daniel Anthony. I'm a subsistence farmer. I'm really like to say that I'm opposed to any new leases of military lands, especially at $1 per lease. I'm willing to bid $2. I'm a subsistence farmer. The military currently controls 25% of Oahu. The military has unlimited amount of access to water. I would like to see that the resources that the military has impacts the Native Hawaiian community, especially our children. The reality is that I feel like the fence, that the military is laughing at the community. Everyone in the military continued to get paid during COVID while our community struggled. We are experiencing an unprecedented inundation of visitors and people buying up our lands, making it absolutely unaffordable. The lands that the military controls are clearly lands that have land commission awards and allodial titles that need to be returned to the rightful heirs. This will allow for us to begin the process of farming our land for the future. As a taro farmer, I feel like the needs of the water in Waianae have not been met since the military continues to use our resources. There were 12 rivers that are stolen from our communities. With the water, so is the health of our people. If we look, Native Hawaiians experience the worst epidemic of diabetes, obesity, and ill health due to processed foods and the inability to access agricultural lands to feed ourselves. Right now, there is a huge explosion in our community of people wanting to farm, and especially farm taro, the most sustainable starch in the Pacific. We are looking to the military to answer this, to play a vital role in our community. For too long, the military has been silent in our subsistence models. I ask the question, what lands are you currently leasing to Native Hawaiian farmers or Native Hawaiian farming organizations? And of those lands, how many people are doing organic farming using non-imported agrochemicals? I believe the answer is 0. If so, these needs need to be met immediately. Thank you guys so much for hearing.
Thank you. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you very much. So Johnny May, did Nolan come back in the room? Is that who's back?
No, it's just he's not going to speak.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for asking.
Of course. So we have Law Kavai. Can we let that person in, Leela?
Sorry, I'm working on it.
Okay.
Lockify, go ahead.
Aloha. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you so much.
All right. Aloha. Aloha to everybody doing the testimony. Mahalo nui kia'i. The proof's in the pudding. Ignorance of the law is no excuse, especially the laws of these lands, the laws of the Kanawai, the laws that have been pretty much stated as the evidence of this show that's being put on right now. We have always been a peaceful people. We have always been a family-oriented people. But this kind of stuff right here, sometimes is just a little bit too much when you push. So the people have spoken and laid the facts and the truth down. And I'll just keep saying it because Daniel just spoke and he spoke of the true, of the diabetes, of the way we live and the foods we eat. That is in one word in everything that's being done. And ignorance of the law is no excuse now. And the word is genocide. That word is heavy, heavy actions right there. Under the Kanawai of the law of these lands, it's even more heavy. And the people have spoken pretty simple. A lot have asked for restoration. A lot have asked for peace and friendship and just do what's right. But the people spoken, and it's pretty hard not to say anything when you hear all these alakai, kia'i, speak the truth. And the real truth of it all is that this whole thing is a big mockery and a big show for paperwork, for commercials, for civil beat, for media. It's all a play. And everybody knows it's a play. That's why the Kia'i step up. You destroy our medicines, you destroy our way of living, even to protocols, Colonel, even to protocols of the Ha'akoa being taught when chain of command is being exchanged of command with the Ha'akoa protocol, which is the Kanaka Maoli and protocol for the Ali'i Nui, the king of these lands. And that is the facts. Because ignorance of the law is no excuse. And the laws of these lands say who is responsible. Who is responsible for the people, the land, the chiefs, everyone, the food, the water. The law says so. And under that kanawai, mamalohe, it says so who is the who. I just wanted to say, eo, e kuana kapaya kiai, en aloha nui, en aloha po, malie. Aloha.
Aloha, mahalo nui. Kanoa, Ihimai Kalani, did you still want to go or are you good? I see your hand, the hand's not up anymore. Okay, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, aloha. I kind of, well, mostly I wanted to mahalo everybody for sharing. I feel like I don't need to go into it anymore about how heavy everything that is going on here is, because that has been discussed a lot. But I think that, you know, if I could say one thing to you, Colonel, about how we can remedy this, I'd want to say that regardless of how it's very clear how we all feel about the military, you know, I still know that you're a person, and I still know that you probably did what you did for, you know, to provide a good life for yourself or your family or whatever, but that's all we're trying to do for ourselves right now. And I think that if, like Punahele said, you know, like we like work with you, we like help you do this, but, you know, we got to be involved so that we can make sure it gets done right. And you got to be involved because you made the mess that you got to help clean up. You know, there's, I don't know, not much more that can be said, but just talking to you, Colonel, person to person, if there's anything that you can do to send this higher up and work with Kanaka and organizations that want to help make this right, I'm urging you to find your humanity and do that for us. Mahalo.
Mahalo nui. Thank you so much. Johnny, may I see the Nolan hand up again? Did Nolan want to say something?
No, I don't know what's wrong with it. It's defective. It's defective.
No. Okay, no, that's okay. Just wanted to make sure. No, thank you so much. Okay, so I think we've gotten through everybody who wanted to speak once or wanted to speak twice. I see the Nolan hand keep going up, but I'm assuming it's just defective at this point. We're gonna take one more, so sorry. Okay, so Annie, if you wanted to provide one more comment, I think we can do that. Annie?
Aloha, this is Teresa. Cool. Sorry, it wouldn't let me change the name.
It's okay.
So I just want to mahalo and show our aloha to our military families. You know, my papa, he's 100% Hawaiian. He served in the military. He's buried at Punch Bowl. My father was also Army, and my maternal grandmother and grandfather were both Army. So it's not anything personal against our military, but we have to understand that in Hawaii, our land is so much different, and we will fight for her, no matter what the cause, what. Just know that we love you as individuals, as people, but we fight the machine. And that, at the end of the day, we just want to know, we aloha all of our military staff. We love you as people. But this whole thing with the war and using our land to perpetuate that negative, we cannot anymore. And we would love to just help transition We have 8 years to transition to restore her. And the community here, even though we didn't make that Opala, although we didn't hurt her, we are here to help fix it. And we will come out in droves to support the cleanup efforts. We will. Mahalo.
Mahalo nui, thank you so much. I see we have Rep. Peruso, so Representative Amy Peruso, who has not spoken yet. So if we can have representative.
You can just
Aloha. So I wanted to just first mahalo all of the community members who have shared this evening. I think as other people have mentioned, this expression is really important. It's really painful for the community. And I'm trying to put myself in a position where I can be compassionate about the lack of understanding that the military leadership might have about this context, given your short tenure in the islands and lack of historical background, lack of exposure to these issues. I think that many of the community members would say that that's not an excuse. And I did want to also add that I think that it would be a mistake to think that the sentiment expressed here tonight is that of a small group of people. Speaking as someone who has had conversations with many hundreds of people in my community, I can say with great confidence that the military does not enjoy much sympathy, does not enjoy much support because of the reasons stated prior to my comments. So I think that this is an opportunity, Colonel Misigoi, for you to consider the appropriate action. And I know that we're going to have more opportunity for this conversation tomorrow, but to really try to understand, and I also understand that you are operating in isolation in many ways. You're not in our communities. You're not living with us and seeing the stratification that we see, this chasm, right, of privilege, and how we feel about the destruction of Aina. So I'm just asking that you kind of step back and reconsider all the ways in which your vision is impaired and seek to address that. And I look forward to having this conversation again tomorrow night. And I would ask explicitly that tomorrow night, everybody be able to see each other, that we be in community on the screen, and that we be able to communicate with each other via the chat. So to have that disabled and to have our images erased, you're both silencing us in a way and invisibilizing us, so erasing us. And that's unconscionable. That's not the way you run community meetings. So those are my two procedural comments, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much, Representative. I think we have Daniel and then, oh no, Linnell, I'm sorry, Linnell again, and then we're gonna have Daniel. So Linnell. Linnell, are you still here? I don't see Linnell again. Okay, Daniel.
No, I'm right here.
Oh, sorry.
I'm right here.
Go ahead. So sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, just to bring this conversation back to the EIS portion, like I mentioned earlier, I live right below KTA 1, where the scoping, the EIS process is taking place right now for HDR Hawaii, which is the which is a radar discrimination radar that they want to build right up here. Anyway, I was wondering if it seems to be such a convenient time for the military to be lumping all of these communities together, and for one thing, that's already wrong. Anyway, will they be using the EIS process that the MDA is already performing to be used with what this new idea about this extension at KTA? Because there's a major difference from 160 acres of the MDA's radar to over 4,000 acres. So just to let you guys know, we're going to be watching. We're going to be watching how you people do what you say you're going to do. Because on so many levels, this whole thing is all wrong. And I'm not very comfortable with it because, you know, I've been using the word bully a lot with the military lately, because they go through the process, check off the box. Oh yeah, we did this. This will satisfy the protocol, satisfy everybody, the process, right? But we know what really happens. Okay, so just to let you know, we're going to be watching and we will pick it apart, because we are going to stand in solidarity, and it is no. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Daniel.
Sorry, thank you guys. Colonel, I wanted to say mahalo to you for making the time tonight, but I want to make this my own personal thought here. Is like, you guys have some of the most sacred land in Hawaii. If you want to continue to control it, pay fair market value. These lands, 20% of the proceeds of these lands are supposed to go to the Native Hawaiian community. That means for a 65-year lease, the beneficiaries get 20 cents. I want you to ask yourself how fair that is for our community, especially when on these same lands, we could produce incredible amounts of food. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Okay, thank you, everybody. I know this is difficult, and I want you to know all of your comments are very, very much appreciated. Again, I apologize to those of you who went out to Lelehua and for the pivot this evening. I know it was very much an inconvenience, and I think Jeff has things to say.
There's one.
Oh, no, Nolan, that's.
No, Ann, right?
Oh, there's,
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm so sorry, Ann.
She just hopped on.
Oh, she just hopped on. Okay, Ann, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ann.
Yes, this is Ann Wright. I'm a retired U.S. Army colonel, 29 years in the Army, and a former U.S. diplomat. I've lived here in Hawaii for 20 years. I certainly appreciate, the role of the military. I was in it for a long time, but I think the numbers of acres that the U.S. military and particularly the Army has is way too much, and the opportunity for 30,000 acres to be returned to the people of Hawaii is certainly needed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your comment, Ann. Okay, I think we're clear now. Jeff, Colonel Jeff, any last comments?
Well, I want to thank everybody for participating in the process of this first night of a 2-night scoping session. And we look forward to those that want to participate again tomorrow night, or friends, folks that you want to have involved for tomorrow night. That'd be great. So thanks for everyone for staying on. Colonel Misagoy, some closing remarks?
Yep, thank you. Hey, for everybody that joined us tonight, whether to share comments or just to listen, hey, thank you for your time. I appreciate it, taking time out of your lives, away from your family or all the things to be part of this. We asked for comments to help us scope what we should look at for the environmental impact statement. I think we received a lot of good comments. as well as, hey, what the feeling of the people is as well. And although we may be on different sides of an issue here, I am not without empathy, and I am not without some understanding of it. You know, as I've met some of you here online, so this is, you know, this is my second time in Hawaii. I've got probably about closer to 5 years here in Hawaii, on and off with family remaining here. And the thing that strikes me very much all the time is, you know, I've kind of traveled. My family kind of has traveled, has immigrated over time. So I can't tell you different places that I'm from. However, every time I meet a Hawaiian, they tell me which valley they're from and which high school they went to, and it's usually very local. So the differences in personal culture to me is never lost. So I just share that with everybody that, you know, that human aspect isn't lost on me, that we do look at things through different lenses, but we are committed to move forward here through this process and see what, you know, where we go forward with the lands. Mahalo.
Thank you, everyone. So we will be on again tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock. And thank you again for sharing time with us this evening. Aloha.